Across the English-speaking world, conservatism is in crisis. Many people are unsure as to what conservatism even is anymore. Well, for most of the last 2 centuries, at its most basic level, conservatism has been about conserving the best of the past. But of course, in practice, that still begs the question, what is it? Well, there have been 2 broad answers to that question. Some people have said that conservatism is a process, that we should conserve as much as possible for as long as possible. But the problem with that approach is that it allows other parties, other ideologies, socialism, liberalism, even Islamism, to set the direction of travel for the future of the country. Other people have said that no, conservatism is a set of principles that must be conserved. It represents the sum total of the wisdom of past generations who've learned what is good for society. And we have a duty as trustees to pass that on to future generations. But that still begs the question of what are those principles? Edmund Burke, who in many respects was the founding father of conservatism, was very clear that there are certain principles that we have a duty to pass on to future generations. But he also said that the actual form that those are expressed in will always need to change to continue to be relevant to the next generation. Burke was also very clear what those principles were. They were the freedoms that had developed throughout the course of previous centuries of British history. And he understood those to have been developed in large part through the influence of the outworking of Christian values. Winston Churchill actually took a very similar view. Despite the fact that Churchill hardly ever went to church himself, he nonetheless saw the outworking of Christian values throughout our history from the time of Alfred the Great as being the foundation for what he called our civilization. Margaret Thatcher also took a similar point of view. She said in 1993, "I believe in what are sometimes referred to as Judeo-Christian values. Indeed, my whole political philosophy is based on those." Well, since then, conservatism has tended to focus very much on the economic aspects, how we manage the economy, create jobs, and so forth. But conservatism has always been much broader than that. It's got much to say about the environment, education, the family, law, social justice, defence. It's got a particular contribution to make to highlighting what have been our historic national values. Such things as parliamentary democracy, equal treatment of all by the law, with even the government subject to the law, something that doesn't happen in some other countries. Freedom of the press, freedom of speech, freedom of religion, and so forth. But as we speak today, many of those values are actually under threat, directly from radical Islam, but also more subtly from liberalism, which wants to replace them with its own rather shallower and unfortunately increasingly intolerant values. And far from liberalism being any sort of answer to the challenge of radical Islam, liberalism itself is increasingly becoming part of the problem itself. It's only by refocusing on what are historic national values are and the freedoms associated with those, we can have any chance of providing a convincing counter-narrative to the challenge of radical Islam. Now, I've learnt a lot from writing this book. In fact, I'm quite excited about it, what it says and what it could do for us as people who live amongst the English-speaking nations to regain a rightful sense of who we are and the contribution that the English-speaking peoples have made throughout our history in developing these freedoms and spreading them around the world. Conservatism is about conserving the best of the past. And what this book does, it demonstrates that To a very significant extent, a large part of that has been through the outworking of Christian values throughout our history, through our law, government, through society at large. Now, regardless of whether you're a Christian or Jewish, Muslim, member of another faith, I think you'll find this a stimulating book to read. I hope you'll also find it an enjoyable book to read, but it will also help you reflect on what actually is good for society. I'm Martin Parsons. I'm the author of Good for Society, Christian Values and Conservative Politics.